What are some things that you're teaching your daughter that you wish maybe you had known?
So I am teaching her about toxic relationships. I've given her a whole spiel about narcissism and continue to like say, and it's funny because she'll notice even like in a cartoon character or like a real show we're watching on Disney or something. She's like, she thinks it's a bad word. So she'll say he's an N. And I was like, oh yeah, probably. But so, and it's not like to a bad point. She doesn't call everyone that, but it's funny because she's actually right in most points. I'm like, well, that's more just gaslighting. We don't know them well enough to know if they're narcissists.
I love that.
And I tell her, everyone has narcissistic
tendencies. Love that.
So, I try to make her understand that, I'm not perfect. We all have the capabilities. We just need to find a balance. And, I've taught her about things that even like young men will do. And, I've even gotten deep into trafficking. It's bad. It's ended in tears. But yeah, I try to teach her gaslighting is one of my biggest ones. And now again, narcissism, and I'm trying to teach her what love looks like. Obviously I'm confused myself, but we're working through it together. But
yeah, 100%. Speaking of that, what are you doing now to kind of stay focused on your future and, protect your boundaries as you kind of navigate through your life?
Of course, I'm pouring myself back into my work and focusing on excelling there and my relationship with my daughter, and again, educating her and reading, just bettering myself as a person. I've always thought of myself as evolving and a work in progress, but, now more so than ever, because I need to be healthy if I want her to become a healthy adult. And obviously none of us are, we all go through stupid things. And I also tell her, because, she says, I hope to never encounter anyone like that. And I said, you will. Yeah. You absolutely will. It's just, you got to know, you got to get out of it and when to see the flags.
Yeah.
I waited too long to get out of the relationship. I should have gotten out the first flag, all that kind of stuff. So it's really just my future as a single woman finding her way again. I always loved when I was single. I have plenty of time for my daughter and for the things that I want to do. And I don't have to ask permission to do them or run it by anyone. And it's not permission. It's not even just permission. I just mean like, I don't even have to say, hey, so on my way home, I'm going to do this. And I would if I was in a relationship, and not saying there's nothing wrong with that. I love that people are in relationships, and I kind of like, I feed off that positive energy of other people in good relationships. I know nothing's perfect, not everyone's, and I only see what they show me, but when I know that it's pure, and all the stories, even on Facebook, of them finding, I'm not looking for anybody. Some people are, I'm not looking for anybody, and but I'm also not phasing it out. I know that one day, I know the next person I am with is going to be a healthy relationship. I know that much. So I'm trying to work on myself as a person. That's how and the more that I do towards that, the more positive my future looks.
100%. And the cool thing too, about being single, especially at the, how old's your daughter? Like 11, 10?
She's 10.
10. Like, you're spending so much more quality time with her than you would be able to, exactly. So that's the positive in it.
Yeah. Even in a healthy relationship, time is naturally taken from children.
Yeah.
But for it to be so negative, it just makes it so much worse. And then you look back on the time that you did lose.
Yeah.
And, my future is positive because I vow to never, ever let anything like that happen to me again or take me away from her again.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that you're educating her too. And you're kind of like navigating her through what you went through in order to teach her without being like too, what would the word, too negative about where you don't want her to like never get into a relationship.
Exactly. It's hard to do. Yeah. And, at first I was holding back because she knew about how bad it was with him. And so I was holding back and acting like everything was fine. And then one day I just fell apart. I could not keep it together. And I finally just came out and I said, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm really upset about what happened. He's terrible and I'm better off, but I absolutely miss him. And it's because of this. And I explained trauma bonding and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, but I don't want you to think that breakups are supposed to be emotionless either. You know, they come with it. It's all a loss. It's a loss. And it's like that person has passed away, especially in this situation, because you absolutely cannot be friends with them.
Yeah.
They're gone. And so I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm okay, because I'm absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and you're 100% right. Even like I've had normal relationships that were just normal. And those are also equally as sad, you know, they're equally as heartbreaking, you know, it just doesn't work out for one reason or another, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
The person, and she'll go through that, you know, as she grows up. So yeah, I agree with that.
I don't ever want her to have the mentality of, why don't you just leave, you know, when it comes to someone else, as opposed to, and I also want her to understand some people, you just can't leave in some situations. It just is hard.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing too that I'm an advocate about when it comes to speaking to younger females is the importance of financial independence. Because I think that's a lot of why women tend to get stuck in these situations over and over again, is because of lack of funds.
Absolutely.
You know? Like I never would have stayed in the relationship I was in if I had money. Yeah, I didn't have money.
There are times over the past years when I've been single, this would just be easier if I was with someone, and I'm like, I just should go find someone to be with. And then, you know, that ends fast. But yeah, it's hard. I can imagine. And I'm glad, like, that's one of the reasons I am glad I'm independent, because I'm easily set up to get out of situations. It's just the mental, emotional part that I need to get rid of. But the financial is not the problem. So that's one of the hardest things. And the ones that don't work and they stay at home with the kids, that's fantastic. I would love to have been able to do it. But sometimes if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you set yourself up for failure. It's unfortunate. My heart breaks for those women.
So that's interesting. I want you to kind of touch on that a little bit more, because I'm the exact opposite. So I was being financially abused. He, again, like what you said, he didn't make me, but like made me quit my job. You know how that works. You know, it was like
the dad tried to get me to do it. Totally.
Yeah. So, but I did it. So I quit my job and I started working for his company without having the conversation of, hey, by the way, how much are you going to pay me? So he had already the year previous had me move in with him. So he's like, you'll live for free, just clean my house and do my laundry. And you don't have to pay for rent. Just like be the maid, just clean the stuff. And I was like, cool, no problem. Yeah. And I saw that as like, wow, great. This is fantastic. Then about a year later was, hey, quit your job over and over and over again. All the reasons why and the mass manipulation that they do to get you to do things. Finally, I quit my job without having the conversation of, hey, how much are you going to pay me? Quit the job, started working, never paid me. Like a couple weeks go by because I'm an empath, because I hate conflict, because I'm a people pleaser. He made me ask. So he made me bring it up finally. After like 2 or 3 weeks of no pay. I'm like, hey, you know, not trying to like, you know, look greedy or anything, but like, what are you thinking for money? $250 a week. But I was living for free. So he's like, that should be enough. You know, you pay for the groceries, you pay for your gas, you pay for all the things for your son, blah, blah, blah. Well, long story short, I was dead broke at the end of every month. Like dead broke. So, but you're opposite. So how does that work? Like you have the ability to be able to leave, but then you don't leave.
Yeah.
So because mine was just finances. I shouldn't say that because who knows? If I had finances, who knows? That's what I'm telling myself. But how do you mentally navigate through that, knowing that you could just pick up and go and be okay?
Right. So with the first one, he actually did try to financially, he paid the house and the bills, and mine was the savings and we'd use for trips and whatnot. And then, one day when I was mad at, who he was and I was holding out, he decided he wasn't going to pay the bills this month. So I knew how it felt. Little did he know. Well, I was already independent for a long time for him. So I just ended up paying him and I was like, okay. And then, but he wanted me to ask. He wanted me to beg him to pay the bills and all that. So he got over that fast and he never did it again. But with this recent one, so what's funny is he has like, multiple jobs and he didn't always have money all the time. And so while he would spend like $500 to make a seafood or a crawfish boil and then complain because he had so much left over and wasted so much money, that's what he would use it on. And then he wouldn't have money or something. And for this one time, for him to have a crawfish boil, I ended up paying his power bill. And it was like $630 because he always has the AC running and he lives out on the lake. And when the snowstorm this past time, the snowstorm here in Texas hit, he was out without power and water for a week. So it was like all a mess and they overcharged. It was a mess. But so I think I was actually financially more stable. He probably maybe brought in more in the end, but I was more stable. So when it comes to, I've always thought, I was always told I was cold, but that was, when I look back, it was all from the narcissist. And but at the same time, I was an empath. And then at the same time, this last one told his friend I was too emotional and wanted to talk about deep things. So I'm like, obviously I'm not cold, but all this time I'm sitting here thinking I'm cold and that I don't give people chances. So with him, I decided I would stick it out and, give him a chance, because he was such an unapproachable person outside of it that I guess when I got his attention and approval, I just loved it. I don't know, we were friends for 7 years, and so that kind of kept me there, because I'm like, so if this ends, our friendship's over, like it's just done. And
Yeah.
We weren't even that good of friends before, so it was just such a weird thinking. There were all these things so outside of the financial, we'll just say it, I would make up anything to keep me there. Let's just be real. Wow. I would make up anything, all of those little crumbs that he gave me, and then, after we would fight, it was this, this whole cycle.
Yeah.
We'd be together from Friday to Sunday, and I'm like completely attached to each other. And so much so that if he left the room, I was supposed to assume when he wanted me to follow him and when he didn't. And if his friends were out there and we're still talking, because I'm expecting him to come back, all of a sudden he's washing dishes. He comes out and he's like, oh, you're not even going to spend time with me. I'm just like, I can't keep up with you. But between then I'm thinking, oh, he wants to spend time with me. So you just cling those stupid little things.
Yeah.
And then, during the week, I didn't hear from him. And then we'd get into that fight at the end of the week. And then it's that trauma bond. So then it's crazy, because I'd be so excited to see him and I just want to run to him and shout to him. And the second I'd see him, it was just a reminder, he's just always grumpy, always mad about something. I'm just thinking, what's he going to complain about now? And I'm walking in with a big smile on my face and he just launches into it. And I'm just like, oh man, a whole weekend of this. And then I get crap for not initiating and not running in. I know when I haven't seen someone in a long time, I run and jump to them. Okay, well, it's just this goes back and forth. So I honestly couldn't tell you what kept me there, but I can tell you what I told myself kept me there.
Wow. That's so interesting. I love hearing that, not in the way that like love hearing that, but
right.
It's just so interesting, the mass manipulation. It's just so crazy to me, because as much as our stories align, that's a huge difference. And it's so crazy that it's not just the money. Like, it's real. The stuff that they do, the addiction, the
Yeah.
mental and emotional addiction, the roller coaster, it's a real thing that our bodies endure.
Yeah.
And it's not to be messed with.
No, it's no joke. After him, like I was like when it was all
Wow.
every time I was going through, every now and then I just like, that was no joke, man.
Wow.
And so actually I just had, a thought that the whole acts of service, he would do that. He helped me move. He would cook for me, which he would make a big deal about. That's seemed like it was part of his love language. He would include me in things that he would make me think no one else would be, secrets, stuff like that. So I think that's the part that kept me there. Is I didn't need the financial support. So, that wasn't anything that I craved, but he did mildly, or I guess enough, because I'm an empath who doesn't expect much. Or it's crazy because I project myself in such a manner that I'm like, I want to be a perfectionist and I want to do everything right and nice and morally, and I'm always worried about people's feelings and apologizing, like I said, and going back and saying, I didn't mean it like this. If I hope you didn't mean, like, stuff like that, you would think that, I totally lost my train of thought, but I was, I totally forgot what I was saying.
We were just, we were talking about how strong the actual, it's not about just money. It's like, it's an actual thing.
Yeah. It's exactly. And it's just crazy that the little bit that he did was just enough for me to stay. And it was, like I said, he helped me move, and that was just huge for me. It carried weight, and he probably knew that. So that's why he kept bringing it up. And so, it's just, that's the kind of things.
Yeah. And that is one thing with the narcissist that's a big thing, is anything they do for you or give to you comes with strings attached. So they don't ever do or give like freely, like just to like be a nice person. It's always attached to an agenda, and they'll remind you consistently about that.
Right. So, exactly.
Yeah. So if that's something that's happening in your relationship where you're, towards the end of my relationship, I didn't take anything from him. Like, I refused to let him buy me anything. I refused to let him do anything for me because I was so sick of just the bricks that he just kept laying on top of. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. Because I've done this, you better do that. And it's horrifying. It's horrifying to be guilted into doing things that you don't have time for, you don't, like, definitively do not want to do, but feeling guilted into doing them because they have all these things that they've quote unquote done for you. So that's
I know that I've said this.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and I know that, I'm sorry if I interrupted you. The food thing, like I said, he would cook so he would get praise, and if he didn't get the praise, then he would be mad, and then he would cook like at 9:00 at night, so I wouldn't eat till midnight anyway. So there's another problem, and then I wouldn't feel well, and then I wouldn't eat his food, so I was insulting him, and so it just made it worse. And so then at the fight on Friday that we would have, or Thursday or Wednesday, whenever he would ask me, "You feeling some type of way?" he would bring up, and I made all that. I spent $500 on food that you didn't even eat. And I'm just like, okay, so you're mad at me for being sick. Wait, and I'm sick because of the medicine that I was taking because you gave me bacterial vaginosis 5 times for the 5th time.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. But yeah, all the way down to the eating. He needed the praise. And then when he didn't get it right, he was angry at me. And then he took it out on me. And then he held it against me.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I totally.
But it was torturous. So you want me to eat when I'm miserable?
Yeah.
So I'm going to sit here. I literally would eat, and then I would throw up because I'd be so sick. And then I'd come back and have to eat more. It was just insane. Yeah. And he'd still be mad.
Yeah, definitely. I totally understand that.